Hello, everybody, and welcome to CLCI Live.
Hi, everyone. So my cat is being extremely needy right now, just like the neediest ever at the moment.
Cute.
So,
Hello, Jordan Success.
Before we begin, let's remind everybody to join in the conversation. We want to hear you. Also, please subscribe and follow and like. It's the only way that we know you enjoy what we're doing. That and commenting and all of that. So please join in the convo and show us your support. We want to hear from you. And then I'm going to turn it over to these wonderful humans here to sort of possibly introduce our topic.
Yes, last week we talked about what the heck did we talk about? We talked about coaching outside the coaching session. Today, we're not doing a one-on-one topic. We're saving that for October. We are doing instead. Oh God, I just forgot the topic. It's
overthinking.
It's rationalization. Self-rationalizing your decisions and what is it when you have two conflicting ideas in your head? Cognitive dissonance. Yes.
And I think
that was a struggle to get.
I like this. What Jerome put. He put outsmarting yourself. This is kind of a bit.
That's a way better description of our episode than what I was.
Pretty simple way to put that, which I enjoy. We threw out a lot of words right there, right? A lot of words. It's self-justification, outsmarting yourself, cognitive dissonance. These are all big topics. When you hear those things thrown out, what do we want to? What comes to mind? Let's start there. How about that?
A challenge. Possible self-challenge.
Lack of self-awareness comes to my mind.
I think it's quite simply put. Everybody typically makes their decisions based on emotions, and then we try to justify it after we've made the decision.
Mental blocks comes up for me.
That's the marketer in you. My marketing. I've drilled that into the head of.
That is true. Yes.
We make our decisions subconsciously, and then we justify them. Bit of neuromarketing coming forward, but it is so much of that is true, right? We often make decisions without really fully thinking of the consequences. But I think this takes it a step further than that. What do you think I mean by that when I say this concept might take it a step further than just making the decision, whether it's conscious or unconscious, aware or unaware? It's that second piece, that justifying it rationally piece kind of starts to play into this.
We will make ourselves justified morally, ethically, logically, even if we would have come to a different decision had we done that process before we made the decision. So we know what's best for us. We say we know what's best for us. And then we do something that is contrary to that. And then afterwards, we're like, well, I made that decision because of X, Y, and Z reason. And because I did that, it makes it a smart reason. I'm a good person because of it.
I won't go as far as put the judgment on it, calling it a smart decision or a not smart decision. But it is that justification of, no, this is what I wanted to do. This is the best thing to do. This is I did this for this reason.
Or I didn't really want that. That's why I didn't do what I said I was going to do, because I didn't want to really.
So why? We're sort of starting to talk about that. Why does the justification have to start for us in our heads? What causes us to begin to rationalize and justify choices?
So I think we are in discomfort and we look to have that self-regulating comfort so that, again, we're always in that pendulum swing to find that comfort space, I think is what we all attain to do.
My thought is that the brain likes to be right. And I don't know where I've picked that up. Obviously, I didn't make that up. I've heard that from somewhere. So if you guys know what I'm talking about, please tell me. But that the brain is always trying to find a way to make itself right. And it may be, part of survival. I don't know.
The humanness.
It's funny because I think that oh, Jerome, I interrupted you.
No, I was just gonna say, I think on the other side of that, we don't want to be wrong either.
Right.
More importantly.
I almost think it's more of we don't want to be wrong than it is that we want to be right. I mean, I guess they can be, but like I think when we say we don't want to be wrong, it allows for a lot of flexibility in like when I feel like being right is like a finite thing, but not being wrong means that, well, I could be a lot of other things, but I'm just not wrong. I could be stupid. I could be, overspending. I could be making a rash decision, but that doesn't mean that I'm wrong, which is kind of a funny, I guess that's just a way to justify, right? Our choices. So we're sharing about this justification and this wanting to be right and this sort of feeling of, so does that imply that this comes up when we are uncertain about something we have done, this is where this cognitive dissonance starts to play out a bit. But what does that mean? What is going on inside us as human beings that we are seeking rationalization outside of just being wrong or right? This is this cognitive dissonance. So let's start to sort of discuss what that is and what that might be and what we mean when we say things like that.
Well, it's cognitive dissonance is uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable state to be in from the psychology point of view. People don't like being in a cognitive dissonance state, so we have to find ways to sort of work ourselves out of it. And that's the rationalization process. By saying, this actually does fit into my model of who I am or what my values are, or this it sort of excuses this maybe hypocritical position I'm taking.
That's a really important word that you mentioned there. I think that a big part of what plays into this is values and belief. That's a big part of this sort of process is really whether Anthony might disagree with me on this here, but he has his own, so he can't, truthfully, is we all have in us some innate beliefs and feelings that we are comprised of and values that sit within us. And when we are experiencing cognitive dissonance, we feel this sort of tension when our actions aren't maybe not be aligning with what our beliefs and values are. And we feel a sense of discomfort, something awry. A really good example of this is that cheating example. And I thought it was really cool, that pyramid. Actually, I'll put the pyramid, I can share my screen and I'll show you what this pyramid looks like. I actually like the one that was hand drawn better. So essentially in this example, what it is if there's a person where you're studying for an exam, and I think it's important to make this a medical exam. So you are studying for a medical exam, your MCAT, whatever it might be, and not studying, you're sitting down and taking a medical exam. And you happen to be sitting there's two people in this room. So Anthony's sitting on one side, he's sitting on the right side of this person. I'm sitting on the left side of this person that happens to be the smartest person in the class. And, we both kind of at some point, just without thinking about it, just sort of peek to our side. And we both see that this person not only is the smartest person in class, they have the world's most clear and large writing.
Keep that example up. We want to keep looking at it.
So they have this huge, large writing where, oh my goodness, it would be so easy. And if I just checked my answers, right? I'm just checking my answers. So one of us on one side, that me will say I'll be the one who checks her answers. I'll make Anthony the good guy in this example. Anthony on the other side has a rigid belief in this, where he's like, that is cheating. There's no way, I will not look. I won't do it.
Also, I already know I'm the smartest person in that classroom, so there's no
So
reason to cheat.
that's another
Continue.
self-justification right there. Anyways, so what happens is we start to slide down this pyramid. So there, Anthony, I go down the side of confirmation bias, self-justification, one side that's cheating. The Anthony goes down the other side that is not cheating. But what's interesting is if we both are sliding equally. Our choices are sliding equally down that slide. And we're both experiencing an equal amount of cognitive dissonance, which is very, very interesting. Before I say why, so why do we think that I'm the easier one, might be experiencing some cognitive dissonance in this example, since I cheated?
Because you've probably been told your whole life that cheating is wrong.
And it's a medical degree. I might have some lives in my hands, that's scary, right? Why else? I mean, yeah, just I might have this innate belief that cheating is wrong. There might be some other reasons too. I might enjoy a success early and not be able to support that success with my skills and capabilities, and end up experiencing some failure too, which can cause some, there's lots of things going on. I might have fear of failure. That's where I might have this big feeling of imposter syndrome. And so I start to feel this inside turmoil going on. Easy example on that side. Now let's talk about why Anthony might have an equal amount of cognitive dissonance who chose not to cheat.
Because he might think that he's only good if he passes this exam. And so if he has a chance to potentially ensure that he's passing it, he might think he should take it. So there might be conflict with that there.
Yeah.
Maybe as well, trying to move up on the social ladder, going to try to move up into a different economic class. Maybe I have family members or children who depend on me to get a good job. And maybe I need to set aside my own personal scruples so that I can provide for my family in the long term. Now, obviously, if you're a doctor, you're probably in a lot of debt and can't provide for your family initially, but that's the thought process going through my head.
Or Anthony doesn't do as well on that test as he had hoped he would, and now he has to live with this. Well, I could have done better. I know in my core I could have been I could have done better on that test if I just looked over my shoulder. I know I'm a great doctor. I'm just bad at taking tests. And why didn't I look over my shoulder? Because now I'm stuck and I can never change this result. And now I am experiencing the same level of cognitive dissonance as me in this situation. So we're both sliding down this scale, which is kind of defeating, right? Like, well, if I'm going to end up there one way or the other, like, I wish I didn't have the option. Like, why even give me the option? Like, I wish I'd never looked over my shoulder and had never seen anything.
Now, here's something that's interesting, because we're making a decision not to cheat, whatever. I think in this example, the real self-justification, rationalization would come when the test is graded and the person sees their grades. So, like, let's say, for example, I chose not to cheat and I failed.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly my rationalization would have been like, I should have done that. I should have cheated. It would have been so much better for me and so much simpler and saved myself so much time to just cheat, because now I have to take this semester all over again. That's so much time wasted. Whereas on the opposite end, Brooke, let's say she cheated and she passed. And now all her scruples have just fallen by the wayside. It worked out for her. And maybe you don't even justify it as cheating in your head. Maybe you're like, well, I didn't cheat. I checked my answers. I checked
my answers, and I made
the ones that didn't jive well, I revisited, I reevaluated, and then I chose the better answer.
And I still had to write that answer. I didn't copy anything verbatim. I just, and so there's a whole exactly that can go on for sure. And then I live with that for the rest of my life. Like, yeah, I'm good. Like, no problem.
Yeah, you're not a sucker. You do what you need to do to, get results, which is what you would do for your patients as a doctor.
And here's Anthony, the guy who's doing the right thing, just
I'm a
his
schmuck.
cereal every morning. He goes in and his only option is to fix, toe.
Yeah, be into orthopedics.
Yeah. Me, I get to go perform heart surgery and change the world. Oh no, I lost my screen. So it's an interesting internal struggle.
And very judgmental
Muted.
one too.
You're muted.
Yes, it is.
It's a very what?
Judgmental one.
Right, yes.
Yeah, but every rationalizations come with judgments, though. Every time you make a rationalization to justify any sort of behavior or choice you make a judgment, whether that's an ethical or logical judgment about yourself and how you should be acting in the world. You can't ever escape making a judgment in that case. As non-judgmental as we coaches like to say people should be, you're
It's
always
the story
doing
you
it.
buy into, right? It's the story you buy into. If you buy into that story, then you can justify it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's an interesting thing because now we are speaking in this space of self-rationalization. So and judgment and so we know these things about us, and knowing these things about us, both internally and as a coach, an external awareness of how people work, this becomes important because what power can we harness by knowing that we are prone to self-justify and we have cognitive dissonance as human beings? How can we use that tool in our lives or that knowledge?
You can learn to apply it before you make decisions rather than after you make decisions. And then stick with, whatever decision you're going to make based off of that pre-justification rather than post-justification.
Give me an example of that. That's kind of, talk to me about how that might work.
So with the test, we'll stick with the test taking example. I'm going into this test knowing that I am unsure about how I'll do. Let's say I'm nervous. And I know there's the possibility to cheat in a whole manner of ways, but I go in prior to saying, I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to keep my head buried. And the reason I'm not going to cheat is because I could get thrown out of college. I would not be true to myself. Ethically, it's wrong. Morally, it's wrong. Religiously, it's wrong. I can come up with my justifications, my rationale for what I'm doing prior to. Then I take the test and I make my decision to just keep my head down. That's making a decision after I've come up with my rationalizations. And then afterwards, I can maybe do some self-examination.
Well, I mean,
I don't think we're saying, though, that rationalizations and self-justifications after you make a decision are always bad. But because you can have your experiences inform your decisions and like what you do in the future is a train.
Yeah, we had a train go through just now.
Oh my God.
But just do a check-in. Okay, how do I feel having made my decision, and how does that jive with what I thought prior to? Because I think most people, they don't think prior to. They just make a decision
in the moment,
and then they figure it out afterwards.
I love to ask for more time to decide things now. Like the old me wouldn't do that, but now I'm like, I need to think, man.
Yeah.
I need to think this over. Agreed. I think that is a good possibility, is doing that pre-planning, and that is something that we can absolutely help with in the coaching space. I also think too, one of the things even brought up in this is we can, I think, utilize this tool, and I'm not saying as coaches, this is coaching hat off, to get results out of other people or even ourselves. And we can almost guilt trip ourselves into and out of things, right? We have most people have a aversion to hypocrisy and being hypocrites. Most people, I've not really met anybody that embraces being a hypocrite. Oh yeah, I love that. I love saying one thing and then doing another. Like most people deep down kind of want to say what they do and follow through, and that's really kind of respected, I think, in most human interactions. So in knowing that, there becomes a great deal of power in verbalizing intention.
Mhm.
And that is absolutely a tool, I think, that we use in our classrooms as coaches. And what do you think I mean when I say that?
So there's that statement that some people disagree with, but fake it till you make it. That's very similar to what you're saying.
So be the person you intend to be, even if you're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Yeah.
With the verbalizing your intention, you're kind of, well, even if it's to yourself, accountability.
Mhm.
You're accountable for what you say you are going to do, what your intention is, and after you do whatever it is you're going to do, it's accounted for.
So I think we had a little bit of a situation in our office recently. We'll share a little story, not a situation, but a thing, where we were not having blogs go out. And I got on Anthony.
Anthony's eyes widened.
Oh my
Like,
God.
what the heck are you doing? You scared him away now.
I did. I
You get to go write a blog.
Before this became public, I talked to him privately a few times about it, and I was like, "Hey, what do you got to do? What has to happen?" And he kept saying, "No, I'm going to just take care of it. I'm going to do 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 it." But he was in a very safe container with me and him, right? He didn't have a lot of accountability. He knows what he can get away with, right? So I then was like, okay, waited and didn't have it. So then I said, that's fine. I'm going to throw this out into a public channel so that more than just me and Anthony have seen this wanting of it to get out. And what happened? Lickety split. Oh my goodness. Suddenly, by making it a public, making this a verbal out, bringing it out into the world, a system for blog releasing was created really quickly. And why is that? That's because of this sort of public declaration, public accountability, this thing that happened where we can, when it's just in here, self-justify all day long about the things we are or aren't doing, and how much power is there when we turn to somebody or group or what have you and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm announcing it to you. I'm announcing it to this group of people and saying, this is my intention. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. Now there's an expectation that most people will work a little harder to meet, right? They especially if they've set that plan themselves. And this dovetails beautifully into coaching. I think this is a very core sort of thing in coaching. And it's that the power in just verbalizing what they want and then taking those steps and starting to announce it to the world and to other people about what your intentions are, what you're doing, what you're working on, and how it's going to go. Does it mean you have to be successful every time? No, I don't think so. Don't pigeonhole yourself. I'm not going to say anything because the moment I say it, I'm going to, but I think that it becomes more serious when you start to talk to people about what you're going to do. One of the fun examples in the one of the researches that they took was sort of this example thing where I'm going to do this it was showering. I'm going to take a shorter shower.
I think there was a funner example prior to that one.
Oh, it was the condom. The condom example. Yeah. But that one person would say, I'm going to take a shower, and they would publicly declare they're going to take shorter showers. And then people would go in and actually time the showers. And they found that by one person declaring and following through, other people felt like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. I should do it. It's like a trickle down effect. And I would say that that's sort of, happening hopefully happy. That tool can be utilized in a lot of ways, and we're kind of using it a little bit in our blog too, because we're not just relying on Anthony now. We're trickling it down. One of us can help out. One of us can help get it out.
No,
Not
I lost sleep over that, thinking I missed something.
Well, to be fair, no one else assisted with the blog this time. So
well.
I've also learned self-justification. Blogs suck, I just don't want to do them anymore. I don't think they're ever worthwhile for anyone to ever do in the future. For
I will
any
kick your butt from
situation.
here to Sunday. That is not true.
That's my recommendation to everybody in the world. Just stop writing blogs.
Although I have seen those people who where something doesn't work for them, so they declare it ineffectual for the world, and it's like what was your sample size there? Was it a sample size of 1? Because may not be the case.
Can we go back to what you said though about intention setting? Because you brought up how we do it in class, and for me in class, I had not experienced that yet. So when I was invited to set my intention for the class, I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you for showing me that I can do that. And from there on out, it's just a standard tool that I use on a regular basis in my own life. It's part of who I am now. I fully integrated that. And that came from literally day 1 of Coaching 101. What I noticed happened is that when I set that intention, I wrote it down. I had it there as a visual all weekend. And it was I was going to make sure I did everything within my power to fulfill that intention. I was not going to leave anything to chance. I was not going to not maybe, hit the mark and then blame it on, well, CLCI didn't come through for me in order to meet I full on knew that if I want to hit this intention, if I want to meet this objective here, it's all on me. CLCI is fully supportive of it. I just have to do my part of it.
Well, and that's awesome. That's a testament to the kind of person that you are, right? That you're willing to bring it on yourself. But there are plenty of people, and I'm sure clients that walk through the door that are used to blaming other people or blaming outside circumstances or self-justifying in a way that maybe they don't see how they filled that. We can take the same example. They set an intention, and then at the end they feel like, well, it didn't happen, and whose fault is that? And they don't turn inwards, right? They start to look outwards and stuff like that. And that's something that we will encounter with clients, right? That is something. And so what is our job as a coach in that situation with that self-justification is making our clients, or if our clients are turning themselves into victims, essentially.
So my thought is that we invite them to turn inward and see what awareness comes up and see what they want to do with that awareness. I mean, we can't force them to do anything. We can simply invite and then inquire further about whatever comes up, whatever comes into their awareness, what it means for them, how they want to utilize it.
And how do we invite them as a coach? How would you do that?
Well, I need a scenario.
I can think of, when they have that victim, you can ask them what the opposite of that is and get them into, I say get them. Obviously, we're coaching and we're not getting them anywhere. So use these words loosely, but really the opposite. What would be the opposite outcome or possibility in that given situation?
Yeah, I like the word possibility. Sometimes I'll say, can we play in the land of possibilities just for a second? Get their confirmation that they're willing to do that, and then kind of ask, what would it be like if, and then throw something out there where it's focused on them. A lot of times they're like, oh, I never even thought of it that way. And then it changes the whole dynamic of the conversation.
There's a question that I've utilized in many, and that's the what do you have control over in this situation? Yeah. What were you in control of? And and that can be framed a number of ways. What is your power in this situation? What were you able to do? What was in your ability, power, etc. And a question like that can make them start to think. That's where things like that, where they're going to say, well, I wasn't, it was up to them or nothing, or, and then that we can start to needle deeper into those spaces. of that self-justification, that victim thought, in a delicate way, because sometimes people aren't ready to not be victims yet, so always tread carefully. But that, I think that is a big part of, if we let's think of a scenario like if we were working with somebody who is a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
How much self-justifying do you think is going on in the brain of a people pleaser?
Probably a lot.
I mean, yeah,
I'm going to guess it is a lot.
It's a lot of work.
It is exhausting.
Exactly. And what are they saying to themselves, right? What kind of justifications are they making?
Well, I had to do it because if I didn't do it, then they wouldn't like me. And if they didn't like me, then I wouldn't have this connection. If I didn't have this connection, then I wouldn't have this and this and this. And it turns into this whole game of I had to. I didn't have a choice. You would think that I would know a little something, and well, clearly it's
and that's true, right? And so they're in this space of self-justifying in a way that renders them at the mercy of other people and renders them in a space. So if we are going to take our title, how could we help that people pleaser outsmart that thought process as a coach?
I like slowing them down a little bit and then simply asking, is that true? And not in like a way where I'm challenging, is that true? Like not like that, but like, is that true? Just very matter of fact, is that true? Because sometimes they'll say, well, no, that's just the way I think about it. Boom. Now you have a little bit of leverage because they just told you that's how I'm choosing to think about it. So I like a subtle, is that true? Which is a yes or no question for most people. And, you know, that's not one of our big questions. We're typically asking a lot of open-ended questions. But Dan says those strategically placed yes or no questions can be so powerful. So,
I like to strategically use a yes or no question and follow that up with uncomfortable silence. Because then they have to start to self-justify. Like you know, is that true? Yes. And then I say nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you know, and those things start to happen. It's a very powerful tool, that placed closed-ended question followed by silence.
I also like what's true about that, if anything. That's kind of a more open way to ask that question. It might seem a little less abrasive to someone if they're sensitive to being questioned. That would be how I would frame it if I sense that the person couldn't handle the question, is that true? I would say, what's true about that, if anything, and see if that opened anything up.
Well, even the opposite works too. What's not true about that?
Yeah, right. Cartesian, right? That's called. Yeah.
Yep.
And then and it maybe true is too tough. So what do you know? What do you know about that? What do you absolutely know? And then that, you know, is that true? Or did that happen? or you know, will that, I mean, how do we know? There's so many things. It's living in a space of they're living in a space of what ifs and catastrophizing a lot of times, the people pleaser. And a lot of times too, it's sometimes working with them, it's about getting them to be okay with the uncomfortable situations and embracing the worst case scenario. Like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? How would you handle that? Okay. So, and then they can start to realize, oh, maybe I am capable of tough. It's something that comes up a lot of times. I've noticed a lot of times, especially with women, with I mean, not to say that men are, but I talk to women all the time that they're like, I'm learning how to say no. I'm learning how to stand up for myself. I'm learning how to be okay with being in an uncomfortable situation. And it's, it just, there's like so much of this like repression, you know, I couldn't possibly. And that's all self-justification, right? That is all. So we talked about how it can go, self-justification can go bad. I think we've talked about a little bit how we can use it to our advantage as well, right? In this, have we? Is there anything I'm missing in that space? I'm forgetting
Well,
Anything-
going to maybe how we can use self-rationalization and justification is like doing a post-mortem, trying to figure out how a situation went down and like the things that went into making something happen. So like in business senses, like whenever we complete a project, the best course of action is do a post-mortem, see what happened, talk about the things that went into it so that you can make better decisions in the future. And then figuring out why you made some decisions before. And it's kind of like a healthy, objective process. But there's also third parties involved, so it's not like this. I'm just doing self-talk. There's other people who are giving their different points of views, which is why coaching is helpful as well.
I think an important tool in this and in this self-justification is the concept of accountability. And being willing to ask your clients how they're going to hold themselves accountable to the things that they want to do. And you are not the solution, coach. You are not the solution. They have to. That accountability isn't them. Oh well, you're gonna call me, or like that's no. That accountability has to happen somewhere outside of your coaching container. That's what we mean when we say exploring that sense of accountability with your client, what they need to be held accountable. And that can look whatever way works best for that client. And we don't have the right to say if their accountability plan is plausible or not. That's something we can explore down the line with them as things come to fruition and don't. But I think it's an important piece that maybe, I don't know, how often do you guys as coaches ask around that accountability piece?
Every session.
I think it's kind of implicit in the voicing their intentions as well. As we already stated, when you put your intention out there, there's an accountability piece where like, okay, now it's out in the open, it's public information that you want to do this, or you're going to do something to achieve that goal. And with the Go Learn model, at least, we talk about like, okay, let's reflect on what happened in between the coaching sessions. You said you were going to do X, Y, and Z. How did that go for you? So there is already a little bit of implicit accountability, but you're not like texting each other in between coaching sessions.
I mean, there's a power in verbalizing it, and then they have to come back and see you unless your client just doesn't show up.
And then there's the just point blank question as well. How are you going to be accountable to yourself? It's a legitimate question to ask your.
And what support do you need?
Yeah, and I think that's an important question. It's not something to forget in our coaching session, because I mean, mind you, if you do, it's okay, because it's going to probably come up in follow-up sessions, if whether or not they follow through, because then the more they misstep, or the more that piece isn't coming into play, we're either going to learn if it's something they actually want and they've self-justified them into this actual desire, but they've come to learn through the trying to put it into action all the reasons it's really not what they want. And so then it's not about accountability in that case, right? And then it becomes about, okay, well, what do you really want? Let's explore without that justification piece and figure out what it is you actually want.
What it is and why it is
accountability plan
you want.
What?
I said what it is you want and why do you want
that. Why is important, that emotional relevance. The one time a coach can ask why.
And you can ask it in a really snooty or judgmental way. Why?
I ask why all the time, you guys, but I don't use the word why. I say, what is it that has you? What is it that gives you? I use what is it instead of the word why, but it's a why question. That is from, hold on, where is that from? I think that's from Marian Franklin, laser focused coaching. She turns all her why questions into what questions. And it's like this very sneaky, but like also effective way of going in and getting the client clarity on their own motives and what's driving their own behavior. So I love it.
And why can be a little triggering, so it's a way to
Yeah,
ask
definitely.
a less triggering why question.
Yeah.
So, and that just reminded me of something. Okay, so ADHD brain just kicked in. So within this space and within the accountability piece, and even outside of that, let's talk about a little bit about the outsmarting yourself piece. Let's talk about it on a personal level. So, like, I'm just gonna get personal for a second. Is there have you guys ever been self-justifiers in what have you self-justified yourselves into at one time or another?
I have self-justified staying in jobs way longer than I should have. I have found reasons why I needed to be there, why it was serving me. And maybe I was right, but like, come on, maybe I was really forcefully creating that. So
I was surprised to find out, or this is something about myself. Like I shouldn't have been, right? It's like should have made that connection. But when I started a program to help me lose weight, one of the things that they would have us do is journal around eating. And I was like, at first I was like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. This is dumb. But I did it. And it was like, so and it would ask you, okay, well, why did you eat? How did you feel after you ate? Yeah. And how did you feel, emotionally, mentally, physically? It was about more than just the piece. And then why did you eat? What was it emotionally, mentally, physically? What was it that caused you to eat? Why did you choose what you ate? And I learned in that process that I knew I was a comfort eater. I knew I ate food to like comfort. We all have comfort foods, right? Which is something I'm like, okay, now I know better. I should get away from that concept of comfort food. But I didn't realize I was a food rewarder. Like I would reward myself with food. Like that was like very often like, oh, I did something hard or I did something awesome. I get to have X, Y, and Z. Oh, I get to reward myself with ice cream. I get to reward myself. And I had to literally like retrain my brain to stop rewarding yourself with food. Stop it. Quit it. Because in the long run, it's not gonna be what you want.
Punish yourself with food.
Find a different way to reward yourself. And don't let that be online shopping. You don't get to reward yourself with online shopping either. Because that's my secondary reward process. And so it became like, but it was very interesting to learn that about myself, that like I would justify eating foods that I knew were not healthy as a reward or as a comfort, to help me get through something, to help me absently I would eat, it's right there. Ooh, I should eat it, but that's a whole other game.
I should get there's goldfish crackers on the table. I need to put away
later, and it normally doesn't come. I just go. But then I learned later to the big part of the program too was also learning to be empathetic with yourself when it comes to that. Like, don't punish yourself if you're human. It's okay. So
two things when I hear you say that, Brooke. One is like that's how most children are parented. Is you like get a reward and it's food. So it's very, very normal. That's the first thing that came to mind. And then the other thing is, what are the new rewards that you created? Because you had to create some new ones, I'm assuming.
I did.
Yeah.
All different things. So, I mean, it also kind of dovetails into what am I celebrating, right? So I think I reward myself with community now. Like I reward myself by sharing it with others and sharing what's going on with others. And I let that be a reward rather than just keeping it all internal and going and eating and like not. So I find I get more and healthier. It's like a healthier community celebration. So we have an Uber Girl Talk. I'll tell you guys, hey, look at this is what I'm doing in our fun channel. I'm holding my breath right now. And so like I post that in there, and it's like you get support and at the same time you get a little bit of that reward center. I love that. I often reward myself with rest. I reward myself by allowing myself to turn off certain things or turn off stressors, and that is another definite way in which I reward myself, is to just let myself sort of shut down and relax. And I think that that's far healthier than rewarding myself with food in a million ways. So,
Well, Kat.
I reward myself with hugs, high fives, but I think those are two really powerful ways to reward myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love too what Steve said. Even the doctors give lollipops. Yeah. I mean, I used to get rewarded for eating all of my food.
Right? Yeah.
More food.
That was a hard one to break.
Right? And now 80-20 is it's stop eating when you're 80% full. Stop it. At least that's what it works for me. But also, I mean, I've had to reframe my whole eating experience. Like and it's so much better and so much healthier. And I've had to just change the way I look at food as a whole. And it's been really, I think I have a much healthier relationship with food. And one of the biggest things I say now is eat all the colors of the rainbow, like that. So I feel happy and proud when I eat all of the colors of the rainbow. And that makes me excited. So
You're not eating a beige diet anymore, huh?
Right? Diet is real. The beige diet is real. Seriously.
Standard American beige diet.
True story. And I love that food. I love all of the other foods. It just it becomes so convenient to just go to the simple things.
I think you guys, because you guys like games, you guys do that in games as well, right?
Reward yourself in games.
Well, you outsmart yourself with the game.
I definitely.
Are you saying reward with playing games?
By playing games, reward myself with playing games. Oh yeah, we do that too. Like, I mean, that's having some fun, relaxing time. That's what the weekend is for, right? Like, it's to sort of reward yourself for getting through the week and have some downtime.
Join success. I have done that chicken and rice bodybuilding diet.
Yeah, but that just
Haven't we all?
Haven't we all? Yeah. It's old enough.
You're having
How
chicken
many
and
of us
rice
are
today.
still on that diet, by the way? How many, by show of hands, how many of us are still eating that way?
I mean, I would, but someone else has been subsidizing my food.
It's me. I have meals, so like I get meal delivery service, and I love it because like it's got everything in it. It's Redlands Fit Foods, and they're fantastic. And you're gonna get you can customize, do all different things, but you're gonna get like a complete full meal with a ton of protein, and it's fantastic. Variation. I need variation. I do. I need some stability, but also variation in my diet.
Well, we're about out of time. So we should probably end with some closing thoughts to round us off. Jerome, we haven't heard from you.
Yeah. Final thoughts. So we talked a lot about accountability. To me, this conversation revolves around balance. That's my personal take on it. Because yes, there is definitely benefit to holding yourself accountable, but there's also I think a mix that you need to go ahead and create when it comes to kind of reflecting on certain things. Sometimes it's okay to, just like Brooke was saying, we're human. We're not going to be 100% successful all the time. So I think adding in that balance of just make sure you're not beating yourself up. You want to make sure that you're being kind to yourself when things don't work out. So I think, to me, again, this conversation revolves around balance.
Balance 101. We just finished that.
Yeah, it shows up in my life a lot. So
there's something coming forward for me that will be my final thoughts, and that's I say it when I teach bar and Pilates, but it applies outside of that realm too, and it applies to more than just your body. But I tell all my clients at the beginning, make sure that you honor your bodies and honor who you are, honor where you are today, honor how you feel today, and there's no shame in whatever space you're in, right? If you have to take a break, if it's not perfect, if today you can't do something, that's okay. Nobody is in judgment of you here. Nobody is. Do the best you can do for you today. And that's 100% okay. That's exactly where you're supposed to be. And I think that I also will tell them to find excitement in the things you can't do. Like, I get excited about the things you're not able to do. Why? Because it's a milestone. Because if you could do it perfectly and there was no challenge in it from right at this moment, then why would you do it? Why would you care? Why would you're not getting a good workout. You're not pushing yourself. You're not getting, who cares, right? So get excited about the things that you're having trouble with, because that is something that you're going to be so excited about when you're not having trouble with it. When you get to that point, like, that is a milestone moment, and those are so cool and so powerful, and we'll celebrate together. And I think that all of this applies in this space where we can sit in judgment of ourselves and our decisions, and that doing that can just result in self-justification, beating ourselves up, or just not even avoiding the things that are going on. But if we trade that for honoring who we are, and then giving ourselves empathy, and even celebrating where we are, even if it's not perfect and not where we want to be right now, but we get to celebrate that we're working towards something, and celebrate that one day we will be a little closer to that. And that's such a cool and powerful journey to be on, that you are in a journey at all is so neat. Day one is way better than one day. So celebrate that day one, and don't beat yourself up and self-justify. It's okay. It's okay. It's kind of awesome. So yeah, even to the cheaters and the ones who cheated and the ones who didn't, just stop, accept where you are, accept what you did, and go from there. Practice that self-empathy and acceptance.
Yeah, I wonder if there is a correlation between the amount that we judge ourselves with the amount of self-justification and rationalization we end up doing. I would be inclined to think there is, because the less that I judge myself, the less I am trying to convince myself that I'm good or okay or everything's fine. And so I think that is important for the client, is identifying how often are they immediately judging themselves when they share something with you, and just offering them the opportunity to pause and just show them that moment of immediate judgment, and ask them if they want to continue doing that, if they want to maybe consider that there's something else going on here. Maybe they're just having a normal human experience. So yeah, Brooke, I love everything you said. Honestly, what you said that was the most like boom, amazing, was get excited about what's hard for you right now, or get excited about what you're struggling with right now. Like that is so good. I'm gonna remember that for sure.
Lisa, final thoughts?
Yeah. So going back to the title, Outsmarting Myself, is the stop overthinking and just do it. So that just be in that space when I think about, sorry, my cat was growling into I don't know if you could hear it. The speaker, I mean, not speaker, the microphone.
No, I couldn't hear it.
Because she was like full on purring into it. Anyway, it's just, really just to not think about it with a great depth once I've been proactive, right? So I've already done the work of proactive of what serves me. And then the follow through is to stop thinking about it and just do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys for joining us for Certified Life Coach Institute. We train coaches how to, help their clients get out of that rationalization cycle. You should do some rationalization yourself, figure out if you want to become a life coach, and then decide to take our courses for life coaching. We certify you in 3 days, and be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, and join us next Tuesday. Are we doing a 101 next Tuesday? Is it
Yeah,
it
we
is
are.
October, so
And I'm just gonna announce it, and I don't even know what the subtopics are gonna be, but we'll be able to find them. So we're
Okay.
I'm gonna name it Scary 101. So
Nice.
Very fun.
so I think that we'll be able to find a lot of things within Scary 101, and I'm excited to say. So that's what we're gonna do for the month of October, Scary 101.
Yes.
All coaching related topics. Make sure you tune in next week at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube and Facebook. And if you didn't catch it live, you can always catch the replay on Facebook and YouTube and also on LinkedIn. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we appreciate each and every one of you.
okay.
Have a good day.